The conference room on the 43rd floor of Meridian Technologies held exactly 17 people that Thursday morning. 17 executives in pressed suits, 17 leather portfolios laid flat on polished oak. Then the door opened, and Matthew Torres walked in wearing a faded denim jacket over a wrinkled button-down, holding the hand of a 6-year-old girl clutching a stuffed elephant named Cog. The laughter started before he reached his chair. Someone near the back said it looked like Bring Your Kid to Work Day had gotten the wrong memo. What none of them knew, what CEO Vanessa Harding didn't know as she glanced up from her presentation slides with barely concealed irritation, was that the prototype humming quietly in the glass case behind her, the one generating $47 million in pre-orders, had been designed in a night school classroom by the man they were about to dismiss. Stay with this one. What happens in the next 38 minutes is the kind of reckoning that doesn't need to raise its voice. Matthew did not argue. He pulled out the chair at the far end of the table, the one closest to the door, and helped his daughter into the seat beside him. Cog the elephant sat propped against her juice box. Vanessa Harding continued her presentation without acknowledging him directly, though her assistant Grace had sent 3 reminder emails confirming his attendance. The meeting was a quarterly product showcase. Department heads presented updates. Matthew was listed under facilities management. He was not supposed to present. He was supposed to fix the coffee machine when it jammed and replace overhead bulbs when they flickered. The room was cold in the way glass towers are always cold, all recirculated air and no windows that open. Matthew's daughter, Lily, swung her legs beneath the table, her sneakers making no sound against the carpeted floor. She was quiet. She had learned to be quiet in rooms like this. Her father had taken her to 3 interviews that month alone, each one ending the same way: polite smiles, vague promises, no callback. This meeting was different only because Matthew already worked here. He had worked the night shift for 11 months. Vanessa did not know his last name. The presentation continued. Vanessa clicked through revenue projections, market penetration forecasts, competitive landscape analyses. When she reached slide 14, she paused. The image showed the E7 neural interface prototype, a curved band of brushed titanium and tempered glass that had been featured in 4 major tech publications that quarter. Pre-orders had opened 6 weeks earlier. The numbers were staggering. Vanessa smiled. She said the device represented the future of workplace accessibility technology, a tool that could translate neural impulses into text input for individuals with mobility impairments. She said the design team, led by Dominic Ashford, had spent 18 months perfecting the concept. She did not mention Matthew Torres. Dominic Ashford sat 3 seats to Vanessa's right. He wore a charcoal suit with French cuffs. His cufflinks were small polished rectangles of platinum. He nodded along as Vanessa spoke, occasionally jotting notes in a leather-bound notebook. When she finished praising the E7, he stood and added his own commentary, technical specifications, patent filings, upcoming investor demonstrations. He spoke for 4 minutes. He did not once look at Matthew. Lily tugged her father's sleeve. She whispered something about Cog needing water. Matthew poured half his own glass into the small paper cup Grace had quietly set beside Lily's chair 10 minutes earlier. The elephant was propped against the cup now. Its stitched eyes faced the center of the table. By 9:47, the meeting had shifted to budget approvals. Vanessa asked each department head to confirm their quarterly spend. When she reached facilities, she glanced at the attendance sheet and frowned slightly. She said Matthew's name aloud for the first time, Matthew Torres. Yes, facilities. She asked if there were any outstanding maintenance requests that required board attention. Matthew shook his head. He said the 3rd floor HVAC unit needed a part, but it had been ordered. Vanessa thanked him and moved on. Dominic's presentation on the E7 had included a slide listing the design contributors. 7 names appeared in small white text against a dark blue background. Dominic Ashford was at the top. Matthew Torres was not on the list. The meeting adjourned at 10:15. Executives gathered their portfolios and filtered toward the elevator bay. Vanessa lingered near the glass case that held the E7 prototype, answering questions from 2 board members who had flown in from Seattle. Dominic stood beside her, hands in his pockets, nodding. Matthew helped Lily into her jacket. Cog was tucked under her arm. They walked toward the door. Grace, Vanessa's assistant, caught Matthew's eye as he passed her desk. She said nothing. She handed him a folded piece of paper. Matthew slipped it into his jacket pocket without reading it. Lily asked if they could stop for pancakes on the way home. Matthew said yes. 3 years earlier, Matthew had been lead systems architect at a firm in Denver. His wife, Rachel, had been an illustrator. They had a small house with a backyard that backed onto open space. Lily had been 3. Rachel died in a car accident on a Tuesday in March, a delivery truck that ran a red light at an intersection she crossed every morning. The firm offered Matthew bereavement leave. He took 2 weeks. When he returned, he could not focus. He missed deadlines. He made errors in documentation that cost the firm a contract. They let him go quietly with severance and a non-disclosure agreement. Matthew moved to the city because it was where Rachel's sister lived and because rent was cheaper if you were willing to take a basement unit with no natural light. He enrolled in night classes at a community college, partly to keep his certifications current and partly because the structure helped. Lily stayed with her aunt 3 evenings a week. On Thursdays, she came with him. The instructor, a retired hardware engineer named Elijah Brennan, allowed it. Lily sat in the back row with a coloring book and Cog the elephant. She never interrupted. It was in that classroom, on a Thursday in February, that Matthew had sketched the first iteration of the E7 interface on the back of a problem set. The assignment had been to design a low-latency input device for assistive technology applications. Matthew's design used a non-invasive neural sensor array paired with adaptive machine learning protocols that could be calibrated to individual users in under 90 seconds. Elijah had looked at the sketch for a long time. He had asked Matthew if he understood what he had just designed. Matthew said he thought so. Elijah said it was the kind of idea companies built entire divisions around. Matthew submitted the design as his final project. He received an A. He also posted the design with full technical specifications to an open-source hardware forum under a Creative Commons license. He wanted it to be useful. He did not think about patents or intellectual property. He thought about Rachel, who had lost the ability to use her drawing tablet in the final month of her illness, and how something like the E7 might have let her keep working. 4 months later, Meridian Technologies announced the development of a revolutionary neural interface device. The press release included a render that looked nearly identical to Matthew's original sketch. Dominic Ashford was named lead designer. Matthew saw the announcement on a tech blog while waiting for Lily's school bus. He opened the patent application that evening. His name was not on it. Dominic's was. Matthew applied for a job at Meridian the following week. Not in engineering, in facilities. He knew he would not be hired into a design role without references, and his last employer had made it clear they would not provide one. Facilities required a background check and a high school diploma. Matthew had both. He was hired within 72 hours. His shift started at 11 p.m. and ended at 7 a.m. Lily stayed with her aunt, who worked from home and whose couch folded out into a bed. For 11 months, Matthew mopped floors and replaced light fixtures and restocked the coffee stations on 14 floors. He saw Dominic Ashford occasionally, always in passing, always surrounded by other executives. Dominic never looked at him. Vanessa Harding passed him twice in the lobby. Once she held the elevator door, once she did not. Grace had been the one to finally tell him about the quarterly showcase. She found him replacing a burned-out bulb in the executive wing break room on a Tuesday night. She said the meeting was mandatory for department leads, but that facilities had been overlooked in the original invite. She said he should come. She did not say why. Matthew thanked her. He wrote the date and time on the back of a maintenance log. The folded paper Grace had handed him after the meeting was still in his jacket pocket when he and Lily sat down at the diner 6 blocks from Meridian's tower. Matthew unfolded it while Lily colored on the back of the kids' menu. The note was handwritten. It said, "Elijah Brennan called the office yesterday. He's trying to reach you. Says it's about your project from last spring." Below that, a phone number with a Denver area code. Matthew called the number from the diner's parking lot while Lily finished her pancakes inside. Elijah answered on the second ring. He said he had been trying to find Matthew for 3 months. He said a colleague at MIT had reached out after seeing Meridian's E7 announcement, asking if Elijah knew anything about the original design because it matched, almost verbatim, a schematic that had been posted to an open-source forum the previous year. Elijah said he still had Matthew's original project submission. He said he had also printed a time-stamped copy of the forum post. He asked if Matthew knew his design had been copied. Matthew said he did. Elijah asked if he wanted to do something about it. Matthew looked through the diner window at Lily, who was holding Cog up to the glass so the elephant could see the parking lot. He said yes. Elijah arrived in the city 4 days later. He brought a folder containing Matthew's graded project, the forum post with metadata showing the upload date, and a notarized letter from the forum's administrator confirming no edits had been made to the original file. He also brought a lawyer, a woman named Eleanor Cortez, who specialized in intellectual property disputes. Eleanor reviewed the documents in a coffee shop 2 blocks from Meridian. She said Matthew had a case. She said it would take time. She said Meridian would argue that open-source licensing forfeited his rights. Matthew said he understood. Eleanor said they would need to move carefully. The plan was simple. Eleanor would file a formal challenge to Meridian's patent, citing prior art and time-stamped evidence of Matthew's original design. She would also request a meeting with Meridian's legal team to present the evidence before escalating to litigation. The challenge was filed on a Monday. Meridian's general counsel responded on Wednesday, requesting all supporting materials. Eleanor sent the folder's contents via certified mail. By Friday, Vanessa Harding's office had scheduled an emergency review. Matthew was not invited to the review. He learned about it from Grace, who had been asked to prepare the conference room. She told him during his shift while he was replacing the water cooler on the 43rd floor. She said Vanessa had looked shaken when she read Eleanor's letter. She said Dominic had been called into Vanessa's office twice that day. Matthew thanked her. He finished his shift. He went home. Lily was asleep on her aunt's couch, Cog tucked under her chin. The emergency review took place the following Tuesday at 2 p.m. Matthew was asked to attend. He brought Lily. He brought Cog. He wore the same denim jacket. This time no one laughed. The room was smaller than the showcase hall, a windowless conference space on the 42nd floor. Vanessa sat at the head of the table. Dominic sat to her left. Meridian's general counsel, a man named Richard Voss, sat to her right. Eleanor Cortez sat across from them. Matthew sat beside Eleanor. Lily sat beside Matthew, Cog in her lap. Vanessa opened the meeting. She said Meridian took intellectual property concerns seriously. She said the company had reviewed Eleanor's submission and had questions. Richard Voss took over. He asked Matthew to confirm he had posted the E7 design to a public forum under Creative Commons licensing. Matthew said yes. Richard said that by doing so, Matthew had waived exclusive rights. Eleanor interrupted. She said Creative Commons required attribution and prohibited commercial use without the original creator's consent. She said Meridian had done neither. She slid a printed copy of the patent application across the table. Dominic's name was listed as sole inventor. Dominic spoke for the first time. He said the E7's final design had been significantly modified from any open-source schematic. He said his team had invested thousands of hours refining the concept. Eleanor asked if he had documentation of those modifications. Dominic hesitated. He said the design files were proprietary. Eleanor asked when his team had begun work on the E7. Dominic said 18 months earlier. Eleanor placed a second document on the table, Matthew's time-stamped forum post, dated 9 months before Dominic's claimed start date. Vanessa looked at the timestamp. She looked at Dominic. She asked if he had accessed the forum. Dominic said he regularly reviewed open-source projects for inspiration. Vanessa asked if he had accessed Matthew's post specifically. Dominic did not answer immediately. Richard Voss leaned forward. He said this was not an appropriate setting for depositions. Eleanor said it was an appropriate setting for the truth. Lily tugged Matthew's sleeve. She whispered that Cog wanted to go home. Matthew whispered back that they would leave soon. Vanessa heard the exchange. She looked at Lily. She looked at Cog. She looked at Matthew. She asked him directly, had he designed the E7? Matthew said yes. She asked when. He said in a night school classroom while his daughter colored in the back row. She asked why he had not come forward sooner. He said he had tried to make it useful, not profitable. He said he had not known it mattered until he saw his work presented under someone else's name. Vanessa turned to Dominic. She asked him again, had he taken the design from Matthew's post? Dominic said the concepts were similar but not identical. Vanessa asked Richard to pull up the original forum post on the room's monitor. Richard did. The schematic filled the screen. Vanessa asked Richard to pull up Meridian's first internal prototype render. Richard hesitated. Vanessa repeated the request. Richard pulled up the file. The two images were nearly identical. The room was quiet, not the quiet of nothing happening, the quiet of a room where everyone had stopped pretending. Vanessa stood. She walked to where Matthew sat. She did not speak immediately. She looked at Lily. She looked at Cog. Then she lowered herself, crouching so she was level with Lily's chair. She said she was sorry. She said it to Lily first, then she said it to Matthew. She said she had been wrong. She said she had not asked the right questions. She said Meridian had built an empire on someone else's work and she had let it happen because she had not looked closely enough. Lily looked at Vanessa. She said her dad always said people should say sorry when they mean it. She said Vanessa looked like she meant it. The room stayed quiet. Dominic left the building that afternoon. He did not return. Vanessa referred the matter to Meridian's board for formal review. Richard Voss recommended suspension pending investigation. The board agreed. By the end of the week, Dominic's name had been removed from the patent application. Matthew's name was added. Vanessa offered Matthew a position as lead systems architect, reporting directly to her. She said the role came with a salary, benefits, and flexible hours so he could be present for Lily. She said Meridian would also issue a public statement acknowledging Matthew's contribution and correcting the record. Matthew accepted the position with one condition: his daughter would be allowed to come to the office whenever necessary. Vanessa agreed. On his first day in the new role, Matthew arrived at 9 a.m. Lily came with him. Cog came with her. Grace had set up a small desk in the corner of Matthew's new office with markers and paper and a chair that swiveled. Lily colored while Matthew reviewed the E7's production schedule. At noon, they walked to the diner 6 blocks away. Lily ordered pancakes. Matthew ordered coffee. Cog sat propped against the napkin dispenser, facing the window.